WWE Evolution went down over the weekend, as well as kind of the main event for a busy weekend from the WWE. And when it all wrapped up, I think one of the things you take away from this is that we need to do this more often. I thought it was really noteworthy when everyone was coming down to coming into the arena, doing the pre-show entrance thing that they do now. Really big crowd reaction for Rhea Ripley. And if you are a longtime consumer of my content here, you will understand that I am a gigantic Io Sky fan. I think she is genuinely one of the best wrestlers in the world right now. But when I heard that crowd reaction, I was like, it's probably justified if Io doesn't win tonight. I think I can, as someone who's bordering on super fan, I think we can kind of we can accept that Rhea Ripley is over as heck. But obviously that is not how the night played out. Intercontinental Championship match. It's Bayley, Becky Lynch, and Lyra Valkyria. All three of them came to play in this one. This was a fantastic match. It was a very impressive opener, and I thought all three had some really fun moments in this bout. And it is one of those matches, and honestly, this is one of those nights where I feel like a lot of parties involved have their status elevated based off of what they did and what they were able to show in these matches here. I thought the finish was fun with Becky doing a really impressive rolling backside to get the win. Just so it was out of nowhere. You had a couple of very fun sequences. I thought it was great. I thought they absolutely nailed it. I was interested after it to see where they would go next. We obviously know that now. Coming off of Monday Night Raw, I was kind of thinking we might get a new challenger, but instead, spoiler alert, they're going back with Lyra after this. But all three of them just showed they have impressive chemistry. And again, this is the type of match that Lyra needs to be in, with the high-profile performers to show what she can do, because we're talking about character development and all of those things, and it's growing. But the in-ring is where she shines, and boy did she shine in this contest. NXT Women's Championship, Jordynne Grace going for the title against Jacy Jayne. I thought Jordynne Grace, again, showing her strength early on with a fun kind of capture suplex. These two had a very good start to the match. Jacy Jayne hits a Hurricane Rana for the top for two. I thought Jacy Jayne, there was a couple of little blips, but Jacy Jayne, I think, is putting on the performances that kind of justify the decision, the surprise to put the championship on her. She is not someone who is viewed in the Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, Jordynne Grace realm, nor should she be. But I think she is a little bit closer than people were giving her credit for. This is not Mandy Rose or anything like that, right? Like this is someone who is genuinely going out there and putting on some pretty good matches now. And I think getting that elevated spotlight and getting the elevated spot on the card is doing wonders for her, because she is doing an excellent job right now of showing that she deserved to be at least in consideration for this spot. You then get the turn that gets a little clunky as Blake Monroe, who calls Jordynne Grace her muscle muffin, and they were developing a lifelong 2-week friendship, turns on Jordynne Grace, who I guess literally turned her back on Monroe, allowing Blake to hit her with the championship belt. That allows Jane to hit her spinning back elbow for the dub. I was a little bit surprised by this. I thought this was your opportunity to really put a spotlight on Jordynne Grace. We're not going to have an NXT recap this week, but I did think that her segment on NXT, while it cut off a match that maybe the timing of it was a little off, I still think that you are getting a stronger character out of Jordynne Grace now, so net positive. I thought this was the time, because she had been a bit of a background player with some of the other big names that had come through NXT's women's division. I thought this was the time to kind of put that spotlight back on her. And so having her lose was a bit of a surprise to me, but they have put that spotlight on her. You are getting more out of this character now, and I think in the long run, this is going to be a positive. And it keeps the belt on Jacy Jayne, which is not something I thought was a positive going in. And honestly, probably seems like she's going to win the TNA Knockouts Championship coming up on Sunday at Slammiversary as well. So I think when you actually look at it, it's a smart move, but it was not one I was expecting. The women's tag team titles on the line, with Judgment Day defending against the Kabuki Warriors, Charlotte and Bliss, and Sol Ruca and Zarya. I thought interesting that you get good teamwork from Raquel and Roxy early on. Raquel getting a very good spotlight again, showing some of the real power moves that she has. Alexa Bliss gets a pretty good reaction when she comes in, but Atlanta's Flair country, because Charlotte Flair comes in and this crowd goes nuts. And there is a very big shift, in a dramatic shift even, in how people are viewing Charlotte Flair, coming off of the Players Tribune piece where she was talking about how difficult coming back with everything that she had been through, how difficult that was. And then the other article saying that there isn't an athlete on social media that gets as much hate as Charlotte Flair does. I think everyone kind of had that realization all at once. Like, hey, we're being really shitty here for no reason. And I have never been a full-on hardcore Charlotte Flair hater. It's not always my cup of tea, but I have at times felt like, hey, this is still one of the best performers they have. I don't know why everyone's just deciding she's the bad one. So I was happy to see, while I'm not happy at the reasoning why, with everyone kind of feeling bad about how she has been treated, I was happy to see a realization that this is a performer that is deserving of respect. And so hopefully this is something they continue with. And I was a little worried because it would be classic WWE. You finally have the people buying into this human being and getting behind her. So of course now would be the time for a heel turn, right? Oh, think of the heat. But I think they genuinely have something in Bliss and Flair right now. And I think that that is something they should kind of keep going and try to build up with Charlotte and build off of this goodwill that has been developed here. Also, you get a really nice move here from Charlotte. She gets the catch on Roxy and the follow-away slam, and then the clothesline on Raquel sends her over the top rope. We have a lot going on. Zarya goes for a spear on Alexa Bliss. Bliss gets pulled out of the way, and Zarya spears Sol Ruka, so we continue that storyline a little bit. Sol hits the Soul Snatcher, so she gets the highlight, but the accidental spear, like I said, continues the dissension between the two. Raquel hits the Tejana Bomb on Sol for the finish, so you have Raquel looking very strong again, clearing house. Roxy hits a dive on Flair, and you end up getting the win. And we're telling the story that these two are starting to get along a little bit more and a little bit more as this rolls on. So I think this was good. Soul maybe didn't get the big spotlight that you would have wanted, but I think when you come out of this, you have a few interesting stories. Like the Kabuki Warriors are back together, so that's neat. Roxy and Raquel continue to build together as a tag team, so check mark there. Charlotte and Alexa Bliss are getting along, so there's a story there. And Soul and Zarya, the breakup continues to move along. So I think they checked a lot of boxes in this match. Tiffany Stratton against Trish Stratus for the Women's World Championship, telling a very good story early on where Tiffany may be taking Trish a little bit lightly, but Trish is getting a lot of offense in, and Tiffany just can't get her stuff going. Trish gets a good counter of the prettiest moonsault ever. She gets the knees up and then a Stratusfaction for two. Trish goes for the moonsault. Tiffany counters with the Alabama Slam and the moonsault for the win. Quicker match than I was expecting. Very, very good match. Trish definitely had her working boots on in this one. And I think that she has adapted her style to a more modern style of WWE with a lot of counter wrestling and everything like that. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. And I know that Trish is just a part-timer, and there was some frustration that you have Goldberg going for a title on Saturday and Trish going for a title on Sunday in 2025, but this was an impressive showing from her, and it shows that she is still deserving of these spots. And I will keep saying, I don't know what her schedule is like. I don't know what her availability is like. I think there's absolutely room for Trish Stratus on this roster as a manager and as a part-time wrestler. I think that she is very deserving of, I guess, obviously she's deserving of more of an opportunity if she wants it. But I think that she is someone who absolutely could have a lot more to do on this show if her schedule and just her desire would allow it for. But a really nice standing ovation for her after it was done. Then you get Jade Cargill against Naomi in a no-holds-barred match. Having this after the Texas death was different, and you have to watch it through that lens. But I think it was still a good match. You get the Bulldog by Naomi onto Jade, onto the chair. I thought they came out firing with some really big spots. Jade uses the camera on Naomi, then some garbage can shots. It wasn't stabbing with a fork or a bed of nails, but it still got a "This is awesome" chant out of the crowd in Atlanta. Naomi with the drop kick on Jade into the front of the table. You don't see it a lot. I know a lot of people are critical because it is a little bit campy with smoke coming out of the front of this table and everything like that. But again, it got a holy shit chant out of the crowd, and it's something that you are not used to seeing on WWE television, especially with this new the new table that they have. You use another unique spot with Naomi, putting Jade's face onto the legs of the table. And I like that they are being a little bit more creative in a lot of these. Mentioned this after the no holds barred match at Night of Champions, where it wasn't just, oh, we're just throwing you into the stairs. Okay, well, we're going to prop them up and use them this way. And it's not just a table spot. We're going to drop kick you into this, and we're going to use the legs of the table. Now, you are not ever going to get the brutality of AEW, but I do like that they're getting creative and making it a little bit different. And then, of course, Jade snaps into the Slim Jim table. Excessive sponsorship placement. But I love it. At least it's creative. You guys know that I love the over-the-top punny things. So good on them for pulling that one off. I love the new edge that Jade has, and it worked so well in this match. She has figured out this character very quickly and has figured out how to really maximize it. So some excellent work there. Eventually, Jade gets up with the chair, hits Naomi, and then Jaded through the table for the win. It makes sense to give Naomi the win. They still make Naomi look very strong and came across very effectively. I actually like this one quite a bit. We now go to the Battle Royal for the #1 contender spot for Clash in Paris, I believe, is what the winner gets. One thing from this, I do wish Julia got a bit more of a spotlight. You can't feature everyone, I get that, but she's one that I wish had maybe a little bit more going on in this one. I like that it wasn't just a bunch of legends thrown in. And talked about this a little bit with AEW, where you had the Casino Gauntlet, and you had the, I guess, both Casino Gauntlets. Now with this one, with the Battle Royal, a lot of times that's your chance to, okay, we put a couple legends in for a pop, whatever. This whole show was about a spotlight on the women in wrestling currently. The first time they did Evolution, it was a celebration of the history of women's wrestling and a spotlight on women who deserved to have it many years ago, but now get to have it at a time where we are doing those things more, rightfully so. This second one, it felt like a celebration of the women today and where we are at right now. I really did enjoy that part of it on both sides. It is a recognition that maybe we have kind of got the most we can out of the nostalgia pops for some of these performers. Now it is time to focus on the wrestlers that we have, and there's a lot of them. And this really did show like there needs to be much more of a focus there. Absolutely. I'm a bit surprised that Nikki Bella ends up being the fourth out. It does lead to the one rep from every brand, Lash Legend, Stephanie Vicaire, and Nia Jax. A fantastic spotlight for Lash Legend. She gets the slam on Nia. She's in the final two. And then Stephanie Vicaire wins it with the Devil's Kiss to claim the #1 contender. And again, we will say this every week. It is wild that she was on Main Event a couple of weeks ago, but she feels like a superstar. She has that it factor. It has been a bit of a step back since she has officially been called up, but this gets her right back on track. It was the absolute right move for them to make. And then we go to the main event. Rhea Ripley taking on Io Sky for the Women's World Championship. Early on, you get Rhea with the fake punch and then Io's emote. And I love that they are kind of keeping that attitude with her, even as the babyface. And then after that, they're like, okay, we respect each other. Let's go. She hits a nice counter to Io, going for the dive onto the floor. Io counters again and hits just a picture-perfect moonsault onto Rhea Ripley on the floor. Rhea keeps control until a tilt-a-whirl DDT from Io gets a "This is awesome" chant. Her moveset is incredible. Like, it is just, this was a full-on example of why she is my favorite performer to watch right now. Io hits a stalling German suplex, then flies out with a suicide dive. Comes back in the ring, hits the missile dropkick, and then does the thing again. Drills her with a poison Rana, gets the near fall. Really good combo here from Rhea, where she hits the Razor's Edge, then picks her up for the sit-out powerbomb. Fantastic combination for a near fall. And you just see, whether it was the WrestleMania triple threat match or this match here, these two just have an incredible chemistry together and are very, very deserving of the spots that they are in. Rhea takes the fight to the floor. She keeps beating up Io, tries for the powerbomb, almost drops her. Io counters with a couple of kicks, sending Rhea... Oh, sorry, I've jumped ahead a spot here. Io hits a missile dropkick on the referee. Rhea hits the Riptide, on Io, has the match won, but there is no ref. And I thought she conveyed the desperation of the situation well. And Wade Barrett on commentary being like, this is heartbreaking for her because she finally has it. She finally has her opportunity to be mommy on top again and finally beat this one hurdle she's never been able to clear. But it's at the worst time because there's no referee there. So again, like I said, take the fight to the floor, tries for the power bomb off of they go on some staging equipment or something. Almost drops her. Io counters, gets a couple of kicks, kicks Rhea off of the stage, and then goes flying with the big dive to the floor. So just excellent, excellent stuff. Io, they're back around ringside, charges to Rhea, but hits the edge of the announce table. Rhea, slow to get up. Io dives out, hits almost hits a sunset flip bomb, just turns it into a power bomb, gets her into the ring, over a moonsault for 2. It was a fantastically set up near fall. And sometimes, we have seen a little bit more where they do a big move out on the floor. They're quick to get them in the ring. One more big move, 1, 2, 3. So that set this up, I think, very, very well. They keep battling. A Spanish fly is hit. They are both slow to get up, and Naomi's music hits. Naomi tosses Rhea out, hits Io with the split leg moonsault, and gets the win. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect on every level. I loved every part of what they did with this one. It was incredible. You get the genuine surprise. There was no talk from anybody about wondering if Naomi would go to Raw. We all had the assumption Jade's going to win and these two are going to feud for the championship. And now you get away from her there. I like the idea of moving her to Raw, away from Jade. You weren't going to have her cash in and have Jade lose. You didn't want to have Naomi cash in and lose herself. So what were you going to do? This was the best way to go about it. And it makes her feel like a star. It gets a real big moment. And it was a big moment that I think this show deserved. I think it was a big moment that this performer deserved. So I thought full marks all around. Very, very well done. Overall, this was a good show. You have some big moments, some solid wrestling, spotlight on a number of performers who deserve it, a fantastic match to close it that ends with a big moment. It was basically everything you would have wanted. And if this would have just been it, if it would have just been AEW All In on Saturday, WWE's like, okay, we'll steal the show on the weekend with All In, or with Evolution. I think you would have a lot more people talking positively about WWE, but they try to do the counter programming stuff on Saturday. It doesn't work. And it just made this a bit more of an afterthought when really it should have had much more of the spotlight. So a credit to the performers because this was a very, very good show on what was a jam-packed weekend.